One of the core features of the nonprofit accounting suite is fund accounting. The funds of a nonprofit organization are like a collection of jars in which resources for various purposes are stored. These funds often have specific purposes and restrictions. The goal of fund accounting is to help nonprofits fulfill their legal obligation to use each of the organization's funds according to each fund's guidelines. A proper fund accounting system allows nonprofits to easily report on funds and provide transparency to external audiences, like boards or trustees. Unlike a for-profit corporation that focuses on profitability, a proper fund accounting system emphasizes an organization's accountability and stewardship. Fund accounting is configured and maintained from the Fund Management module of Nonprofit Plus. In this section of the course, we'll review the Fund Preferences screen to enable fund accounting and set system defaults. After, we'll learn how to use the DTF Maintenance screen to manage the DTF and redistribution settings. Before we jump into the setup, let's take a few minutes to see how Nonprofit Plus accommodates the crossing of funds with a journal entry to keep the funds in balance. We'll go to the AP Bills and Adjustments screen and select an AP bill that has already been processed. You'll notice that in each line on the Document Details tab, the subaccount holds the fund and grant information in the first two segments. The first segment in our demonstration instance is the fund, for example 00, EU or US. In the second segment, you'll see the grant when applicable. In order to see how the crossing of funds takes place, let's go to the Financial Details tab and select the batch number. This will show us how the journal entry was recorded in GL. Once opened, you'll recognize the first four line items from our AP document, and below, you'll see the entries created by Nonprofit Plus to enable the balancing. This is where the redistribution by fund takes place. Notice that the funds described earlier as 00, EU, and US and their appropriate amounts have been redistributed by crossing out the credits and redistributing the accounts payable portion to complete the accounts payable fund balance entry. Let's take this one step further to see how the system responds when an AP check is processed. We can easily view any payment documents for this AP bill by going to the Applications tab, selecting the payment in the screen grid, and then clicking on the Payment button on the Form toolbar. In another window, we can see the payment details just like we can from the Checks and Payments screen. Here, we can access the Financial Details tab and click on the batch to view the journal entry recorded in General Ledger. Take note of the original journal entry and accounts payable, and then our redistribution entries removing each portion to keep the funds in balance. We can now also see that the system has created a series of due to, due from entries. The system has accounted for the fact that our US fund has paid EU's obligation and 00's obligation on their behalf. Nonprofit Plus keeps your funds in balance by creating the redistribution and DTF entries in the background while you're busy doing what you need to do in order to run your nonprofit organization. By keeping your funds in balance, you now have easy and meaningful access to reports by fund that will balance correctly. How does the system know which accounts to use for redistribution and due to, due froms? We'll cover that in our next lesson, so stay tuned.